Hello, everybody, and thank you. Hello, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the lab for hosting me tonight. My name is Danna Pycher. For those of you who do not know me, I am a professional public speaker, I'm an author, and I'm a hypnotist. My day-to-day, frankly my hour by hour, is I work with people of all kinds, of all challenges, through the use of hypnosis to try to overcome whatever those challenges are. And today we're going to talk about a little thing I like to call peak performance, and many of you here today are entrepreneurs and are very familiar with having to go out there, be full out, and present yourself in such a way in which you can be compelling to other people, whether it's in your office or in your own business. So before I was a hypnotist, I worked in a rather mainstream job, a job in which I worked in the media. I was a reporter and producer for many years, and I was very comfortable with what I did. So taking the leap from very mainstream, being employed and all of that, to going into a very non-mainstream, super abstract, completely no path blazed work in being a hypnotist was definitely a huge leap and took a lot of conviction, a lot of vision, and a lot of different, as you know as entrepreneurs, a lot of different hats. So actually when I told my family and friends that I wanted to be a hypnotist, there was a little bit of a confusion, because it's not the most normal thing in the world to want to pursue hypnotism as a profession. But the interesting part about that is I'm actually frankly very, very happy I did, and it's been a path that I've had to blaze on my own as an entrepreneur, but it's been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my entire life. So a couple of years ago, I never had a conception of what hypnotism is. It was never in my frame of reference. It was never something I even thought about, heard about, knew about, until it became a necessity. About 6 years ago, I was nearly killed in a car accident. I was left hanging on the side of the road, hanging upside down in my car, underneath my steering wheel, for about 30 minutes until the firefighters came to cut me out. And as a result of the accident, I was handicapped for a while, physically, but more devastatingly so, it created a mental and emotional impact on my life that I was not ready for. I developed what's called PTSD. If any of you know what that is? Yes, okay, post-traumatic stress disorder. And due to that, I needed help. I needed help big time. So I sought out help, and I sought out therapy, typical therapy, and I was working with this therapist for quite a while, and I really liked her, I really connected with her, but effectively speaking, I was still highly traumatized. Nothing shifted. So what ended up happening is I decided I had to find a different avenue, and I happened to very fortunately meet a woman who told me that she would not be alive today were it not for this trauma therapist that she went to. She survived cancer. So, long story short, I ended up seeing this trauma therapist because I fit the profile. I was a traumatized individual. And when I first met her, she's like, I'm a bit different. What do you think about that? And I said, I'm desperate. And she essentially said, I do this thing called hypnosis. So I said, okay, I'm open and willing to do everything and anything except for that. Thanks, but no thanks. So what ended up happening is I connected with her, I really liked her, I thought she was very intellectual, and I then decided that let's do this scary thing called hypnosis. So really the first time I worked with her, I had a tremendous shift within one time of working with her in this interesting, unique way. And basically over the course of 3 months, she took me from being very highly traumatized, depressed, and had anxiety through the roof that I didn't even recognize myself. Within 3 months, she completely cleared all of that. My PTSD, my depression, and my anxiety. So if you know anything about PTSD, really what happens is there's many, many people that have certain things happen to them, and then they live the rest of their life colored by those instances. So she saved my life. That being said, although I had this profound experience, it never occurred to me to be a hypnotist. It was still not in my frame of reference. But I just pursued the knowledge of it. I really just, every single book I could get my hands on, everything about the subconscious mind, about any single thing I could, I just devoured. I read and read and read and read. And then it occurred to me that I actually wanted to change over into this world, this abstract world of hypnotism. I became so enchanted by it and so intrigued by it that I wanted to pursue it professionally. So I had to go learn. I went to go learn. And as I was going to learn, the way in which I began my training is I learned hypnosis, what's called NLP. Anyone know what NLP is? No? Yes, someone said it. Neuro-linguistic programming. And these people also, these brilliant teachers that I actually had, my first mentors, they actually also taught a form of life coaching that they deemed dream coaching. This is their version of life coaching. So I was learning this methodology of dream coaching, meaning, you know, what is your ultimate fantasy? What is your ultimate vision for your life? Like, who are you? And how do you make that happen in the world in real time? So as I was learning dream coaching, we did a number of different exercises. And one of the exercises was their version of a vision board. Anyone know what that is? Yeah? Okay, pretty much everyone knows what that is. So they had us do these vision boards, their version of a vision board, and what's our ultimate dream? Okay. So I wrote my ultimate dream, which was to become a public speaker and to tell people they no longer have to suffer. I had a dream since I'm 21 years old to write a book. So that went on my vision board. I wanted to be a hypnotist, and I wanted to travel the world. So that was my vision board. And all the while on my vision board, all the while I wanted to do all of these things, all the while making $10 million a year as a hypnotist. So my teacher comes over and sees my vision board and looks at me and basically says, okay, $10 million a year? I was like, yeah, you know, that's a bit exaggerated. You know, I'm a new hypnotist, but you know, it's dreams, you know, I can dream. He's like, okay, $10 million a year. I was like, all right, I'll come back down to earth, fine. And then he looks at me and he says, Danna, when I first did this exercise, the number I wrote was $175 million a year. And then he looks at me and says, Danna, expand your thinking. Whoa. That was a little slap in the face. So he told me to expand my thinking. Expand my thinking. I'm thinking $10 million. Are you kidding me? That's expensive. But he told me to expand my thinking, and it was a huge lesson to me. And in reality, what I want to speak to you about today is expansive thinking. How do you expand your thinking? In the realm of business, and personally, why not? We're here. Okay. So expansive thinking, there's a number of tools I like to use to expand people's thinking, and really all the healing I do really comes from allowing more space in the brain, allowing for different perception, and for new thought processes. So a couple of different ways I see in which to expand your thinking. First and foremost is hypnosis. I'm not biased, I just happen to love it. And different meditative tools. And really the only difference between hypnosis and meditation, are any of you meditators? Yeah? Okay. Awesome. I have a good number of you. Really the only difference between hypnosis and meditation is the reason in which we want to access hypnosis and meditation is because it creates what's called a flow state. Tapping into your flow. And really through meditation is basically by doing that daily, you're able to cultivate this higher level thinking and allow for an easier flow in life. On the flip side, what I prefer, my favorite mental hack, is hypnotic work, because you go into that flow state on purpose. So essentially what hypnosis is the meditative state. You go into the meditative state, into that flow state on purpose, and it's goal-oriented. So you're not going to sit every day for 5 years in meditation in order to lose weight. It just doesn't work, you know. So hypnosis is tapping into that flow state, that optimal state of mind, in order to achieve some sort of goal, whether it's an addiction, a habit, behavior, an illness, whatever it is. Okay. So flow state in the business world is also known as peak performance. So before I gave this little lecture, I was doing some research and I was talking to some people about what are your biggest challenges in your day-to-day life in business. Whether you work in an office, whether you have a startup, whether you run your own business successfully right now. And there was a number of things that were brought to my attention. Number one was procrastination. Anyone here? Okay. See, it's number one for a reason. Number two, public speaking. A lot of people have the fear of public speaking, whether it's in meetings or having to give a presentation. Time management, I've heard, stress management, focus. So these are kind of things that are inhibiting your ultimate peak performance in the business world. So all of these things, from what I've found, have a certain time thread, a certain theme that are underlying all these things. And the theme happens to be a fear of, anyone want to guess? Tell me.
Failure?
Nice, good. Fear of failure. Fear of failure is the undertone for all these things that are potentially inhibiting us from our peak potential in the business world. So, if you backtrack a bit and think about your life, as kids, our parents have a duty to shape our world. They have a duty to guide us. They have a duty potentially to discipline us, to give us some sort of structure in the world. And oftentimes that might come with a bit of criticism, for better or for worse. So in order for our parents to shape us, they have to say that we're doing things well and doing things not so well. So depending on the level of criticism, or depending on your sensitivity towards that criticism as a child, enough criticism over time will create a message in your mind that you'll do anything and everything to avoid being criticized. Hence, relating back to procrastination, for example. So consciously speaking, we're not trying to sabotage this project that's due on Friday. It's not optimal way of behaving. So we're not doing any of this consciously. This is all the undertones of what's happening. So what happens? You have a project that is potentially due on Friday. So your desire is to finish that project, but for whatever reason, you are doing everything and anything else in your power to procrastinate. Really? Anybody? Okay. So what's actually happening here is there's a message in your subconscious mind. For example, let's say you're in 7th grade and you handed in your English paper. And when you got back your English paper, it had a big, glaring, in red ink F on it. So that experience potentially still resonates in your mind. So a number of those experiences over time will create a message in your subconscious mind that if you potentially finish this project, you are now open and ready and vulnerable to put yourself out there for criticism. So your subconscious mind is going to say, hell no, I'm not finishing this project, because it's actually safer to not do it because of that perceived threat. Public speaking, another example. A lot of people come to me for public speaking. first and foremost, I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm also a hypnotist, so it works for fear of public speaking. And actually, I'm sure you might have heard this before, but public speaking is the #1 fear that exists, period. It's not death, it's not snakes, it's public speaking. So that's another thing is, if you voluntarily get up, let's say in a meeting or you give a lecture, if you voluntarily get up and present your opinion to the world, you are also open and vulnerable to criticism. Again. So that creates the dissonance. That creates the disconnect between desire, what you really want to do, and the inhibition towards actually doing it. So my belief is, if you can kind of quell those fears, however you do it, if you coach yourself out of it, if you kind of meditate through it, or whatever you try to do, if you can quell those fears, and if you can recognize that you're human and that everyone messes up in different degrees, and you can tap into that flow state with conviction and passion behind what it is you would like to do in your professional and personal world, then you can potentially create your dream life and dream business. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a little hypnotic meditation to tap into what is your ultimate dream, what is your ultimate goal, professionally and personally, and how do we get there. So also, that being said, when your internal world, when the inner makings of who it is you are, your passions, your convictions, your purpose, can match what you're doing professionally, I don't think there's anything in the world that can create more sustained happiness. And also, on a side note, your subconscious mind is not looking for happiness. Actually, that's your job. The subconscious mind's only role in the world is to keep you alive, to protect you, and to kind of guide your way naturally through life. So in order to be happy, you kind of have to work with your subconscious mind and allow it to become your natural state of being. Okay, so what I'd like to do with all of you today, which is the fun part, is this little hypnotic exercise. Basically projecting into the world your dream life or dream business. How many of you are actually entrepreneurs here? Okay, significant amount. Awesome. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to project ourselves into the future, and whatever it is, listen, go big, go nuts, like my friend here says, go nuts. You can go nuts. You can just, whatever you fantasize, whatever your dream, your ultimate vision is, put it out there. That's what we're going to do today. And then we're going to work our way back, and we're going to have the steps become intrinsic in our subconscious mind. Therefore, it is said, whatever your subconscious mind can see, whatever it can visualize, it will find a way to get there. Okay, so before we get started, all I'm going to ask you is to kind of tap in. What's that ultimate dream? Professionally, personally, is there a goal? It can be more specific. If you're already running a business, how do you see it progressing? So just take a minute and kind of tap in to what that is. And then we'll get started. Doing good so far? Awesome. Okay. Okay. So, everyone can close their eyes and just sit on this for a second. Everyone, just go ahead and close your eyes and get comfortable in your chairs. So, a couple questions before we get started. What would the world look like? What would your world look like if you were limitless? What would you achieve if you had no obstacles in your way? And if you could get out of your own way, what kind of potential would you bring into this world? Okay, so just sit on that. All right, so everyone close your eyes, and we'll get started.